All the pandemic did, Rob, was kind of speed things up. We find ourselves in a place, we talk about five generations, talk about the traditionalists, people that are 75 plus right now. And then you talk about the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, and the Gen Zers. The thing I really found was they were all generationally judgmental about the others. They all disliked the other generations for various reasons. And it kind of got me thinking, you should be looking for the best in everybody.
Welcome to the Great Talent, Great Business Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers to drive sustainable growth. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit greattalentpodcast.com. where you can download this episode's free worksheet designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Today, I'm joined by Jon Sheppard, founder of J. Sheppard Associates, boutique attorney search and executive placement firm. What made Jon a must for this show is what he has to say about the 5 different generations in the workplace today and something that he calls generationality. Jon also brings that same drive and determination to his personal life. He's completed 7 New York City marathons, and I believe all for charity. Is that right, Jon? Yeah, really cool. In this episode, we'll dive into Jon's insights on workplace culture and practical strategies for building a stronger multi-generational team. Jon, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Rob. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Jon, when did you first understand or identify this generationality concept? And actually, what is it?
Okay, I've been recruiting my entire adult life and started J. Sheppard Associates in 2000. And I've always recruited from the biggest umbrella. Get the best people across whatever range you can. But it really started to come into the focus after the financial crisis in 08 and 09. There was a shift. And then in the lead up to the pandemic, and I'm talking about 6+ years before, as things shifted from Gen X down into the millennial generation, you saw that workplaces were changing. It really started to take root then. All the pandemic did, Rob, was to kind of speed things up. We find ourselves in a place, we talk about 5 generations, talk about the traditionalists, those born, people that are 75 plus right now. And then you talk about the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, and the Gen Zers. And what I found was they all had a different need set. And we'll get back to that later. But the thing I really found was they were all generationally judgmental about the others. They all disliked the other generations for various reasons. And it started kind of got me thinking, like, you should be looking for the best in everybody. And if you're running any business, if you know what somebody's need set or what buttons to push, as they say with people, that you could really run your business in a different way. So it really started to gain momentum. I started using it in my recruiting. And then about 4 years ago, it had my aha moment. I was on with a candidate who was a trust and estates attorney. I think she was 33 at the time or something. And I said to her, I believe in you guys. I believe that my generation should be advocating for the 3 generations after. I'm the youngest of the boomers. I said, this pops up on screen and the cartoon bubble pops up and it says old guy. And you start talking to me, but you don't realize, like, I ride a snowboard, go to heavy level shows, I've run the marathons, going 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire. And as I was saying all this, eyes were getting bigger and bigger. So she said to me, Jon, I don't mean to offend you, but I don't hear any recruiters talking like this, never mind somebody your age. And it struck a chord. So I started really bringing it out in people. And I came to realize very quickly, Rob, that each group of people had different things that they needed to address in their personal lives, in their professional lives. And it really is something now. I talk about the generationality of work. It's not only what I refer to as intergenerational communication and collaboration in the workplace. It has to do with where people are in their lives. You know, a young couple starting out, maybe they're starting to think about having kids. They have a different need set than, say, somebody my age or down through your age who's starting to think about caring for aging parents. Different need set. And then it relates to everything in the whole life. And then you sprinkle on top of it a complete shift in the way we work with the pandemic.
Right.
And now you've got a recipe for either really moving ahead in a new way or a recipe for disaster, depending
Yeah.
on what you are.
So is that what's changed? Because we've always had multiple generations in the workforce. We've had a big shift now just from a demographic standpoint, but is it really the pandemic and this and remote working that's really made this a much bigger issue, or is it something else?
All the pandemic did was pour gasoline on the fire. Really, the root of it is that I tell people the fall line now is the older generation and a half versus the younger 2.5 generations. And the difference this time is that those 2.5 younger generations, they have different opportunities. But in remote work and the pandemic, that was all just a symptom of the disease. The disease is that everybody wants something different. I talk to boomers and people in leadership in law firms, both mid and large size law firms, and they're like, oh, when I was coming up, we did it this way. There's a different way to do it now. And you don't accept that. You don't like that. But there are very productive people who do it a different way. And it's not only with hybrid work, it's just the way that people communicate, whether it's in person and email versus text and instant messaging and things along those lines. So the pandemic didn't really bring it out. The pandemic is symptomatic of it. It's a general shift. And the story that I told to a managing partner of a big law firm recently was last summer, my wife and I had our bathroom done. And the contractor was great. They completed the work. Place looked beautiful. And 2 days later, the toilet leaked. And so they sent the plumber back in, and he is going on and on about these kids today, and they don't listen. I told him, you got to take the silicone, put it around the base, and then take your finger and put it around to make the seal. And he was going on and on. And he said, these kids today, they don't learn the way that I did. I'm like, that you did. I'm like, how old are you? 28. I'm like,
Wow.
you're bitching about the 19-year-old.
Right.
And he said, you betcha. And that led me to believe, Rob, that this is an issue that's never going away.
Yeah.
You know, when we were kids, our parents would say, where do you have children? It's the same thing.
John, give us two things. Number one, our audience, business owners, not law firms, although, of course, law firms are just another business. We have many law firms as clients as well, and in our audience as well. But give us just a couple of examples in the workplace of where this shows up. Give us one example of a baby boomer or Gen Xer with what they're thinking about millennials and Zs, and then the other way around, just so we can illustrate this a little bit.
Hey, one of the big, I guess I should start by saying I lived in the law firm space, but the themes are universal.
Yeah.
And I have other businesses now trying to reach out to me and talk to their people about this. It's really about communication and it's about accountability. So for the boomers and the older Gen Xers, they're used to doing business one way. If they have a piece of work that somebody that reports to them needs to do, generally somebody younger, they're going to call them, they're going to email them. And they expect instantaneous attention. The younger people like, I'll get back to it in the course of my day, or, and this is a big complaint about among people, it's 5:30. I'll respond to you tomorrow instead of responding in time. So the expectation of that boomer or that Gen Xer is, I need for you to be like accountable immediately. And the people on the other side,
Because that's the way I did it.
because that I was chained to the desk. I got beat up for 35 years before they gave me the gold watch, the whole thing. And what you don't realize is that if you had a conversation with the people underneath you and said, listen, I don't expect you to like take the email I sent you and work on it from 5:30 until midnight and give it back to me at 1 a.m, even if that might have been the request from the client. You should have had a conversation with your people earlier about, listen, just get back to me and acknowledge my email or my call. And
Right.
that we'll talk first thing in the morning. You set the parameters. So the instantaneous thing among the older generations is no longer there. What they're having a hard time doing is creating timeframes that work for them. And it has to do with the way they manage their work, their clients. You can't say it has to be in the moment, every moment of the day, because then things won't get done. But you need to now look at it and say, all right, this client really needs an answer by Tuesday of next week. So can you give me an update on Friday of this week? That's what you should be doing. And conversely, if you're in the younger generation, you shouldn't, like, you don't have a right to go cold, to ghost the person that you report to, you know, because you want to spend all this money to go to school, whether it's law school or business school or whatever. you're trying to like further your own career. You don't serve your brand by saying, oh, I'm doing this and this is the way I want it. I have an interesting story that I'll tell you later about first year associates in big law and what I'm telling. It's a little eye opening. So
So thanks for that. There's something that you said that was very clear to me as something that everybody should be doing, which is the word expectation. And I see this all the time. And in fact, I talk about this all the time about this concept I learned about from a great professor in school called mutual mystification. Nobody really knows what we're doing or what the expectations are. And I think it's just a matter of simply setting the expectations. Like I expect that if you get something at 5 o'clock or what during the business hour, during the business day, even if it's at the end, I'm not expecting you necessarily to stay later, but I am expecting you to reply saying, hey, I'm on it or whatever and I do expect you to get back to clients within X number of hours or X number of days. Is that a big part of it?
it's a huge part of it. It's a huge part of it. It's a great phrase, and I'll be stealing it from you. Mutual mystification. Thank you.
I stole it from someone else.
Okay, good.
Ask.
It really is. And like people say he should know or she should know. Well, why not communicate what you want in the way you want it? And if it's an issue, you address it right away instead of at the 11th hour when the client's waiting on your work or the department head is waiting for the report or whatever it happens. And it's amazing to me. I joke with people in my search business. I try to walk the line with my client firms after I submit someone to them. I try to walk the line between attentive and annoying. But we can only help you if you communicate with me.
Yeah.
So it seems like it seems like you and I talking about seems easy, but I think your phrase of mutual mystification is spot on. It's like they should know that. Why would you leave it to chance?
Yeah. John, is this an issue, let's say, with a company that only has 2 or 3 generations in the workforce? Is it an issue to the same extent? What have you seen?
I think it's an issue with everyone, no matter how many generations they have in the workforce. It's nobody's fault. It's really about communication and accountability, and that includes self-accountability. I had law firm clients of mine that I talk to that are not run by boomers. Like the older Gen Xers have risen up and they're taking a raise. They have the same problems. And then they have the problems with the older attorneys who are like, I'm going to sit in Martha's Vineyard or the Hamptons and give you my X million in revenue and you should take it. No, we shouldn't. Because the way you learned to be a lawyer was that you got trained. You now have to train people.
Yeah.
It's not only with businesses that are, call it across 4 or 5 generations. It's really the core 4. But even I see it with millennials and Gen Z type companies. The millennials are having a hard time talking with Gen Z because the millennials came up in the time of, oh, we're going to have an open workplace space. Maybe we have a pool table or something like that in the middle of the office. Gen Z, they want an office.
Yeah.
And leadership is, why do they want an office? So they could be on TikTok all day? No, they want an office so they can close the door, finish their work, and then go home.
This episode is brought to you by Work Better Now, your trusted partner for getting high-performing talent from Latin America. Our clients tell us that partnering with Work Better Now has transformed their businesses by providing the proactive, reliable, and skilled professionals that they need to thrive. Ready to build your dream team? Visit workbetternow.com to schedule your consultation today. As a special thank you to listeners of the Great Talent, Great Business podcast, we're offering $150 off your first 3 months. Just mention Great Talent during your consult. Join the businesses building their dream teams and take the next step in transforming yours today. So, John, I'm going to ask you a challenging question in a way. I do speaking. I got a book coming out. One of the things I talk about is literally just citing statistics on Gen Z and a little bit of millennials too, on how a lot of them there's this lazy girl concept or quiet quitting, or I'm just going to do the minimum. So are you saying this is not a real phenomenon amongst the younger generations?
What I'm saying is you talk in your business about the talent crisis, right? It's just not enough good people. What it really is, and the best example I could give you, Rob, is about 1.5 years ago, the New York Post did an article on 76% of companies in New York City don't want to hire Gen Z because they're a pain. I did a reel on LinkedIn and Instagram. I want to meet the other 24% of employers. So yeah, all the stereotypes could hold true. Yes, the answer is a yes and no. Like all the stereotypes may hold true, but at the end of the day, you're looking for people that fit your business, whether you're a law firm or another kind of business. So the quiet quitting and all the things that you mentioned, yeah, it's stereotypical. We're doing I already have in the can a series of videos that my assistant is putting onto our YouTube channel, addressing each of the 4 generations, judgments about them and judgments made by them. And I contend that if you know who you are and you are educated about the generations you're not a part of, you're going to navigate the business landscape a lot better for yourself.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening to me just in this conversation that really understanding my own expectations will go a long way.
Yeah.
Right. So let's jump around a little bit. Right now, this generationality thing is a challenge for most businesses. Can businesses turn it from a challenge into an opportunity? And if so, and if the answer is no, the answer is no. And then if so, what are the steps to do that?
The short answer is everything's always an opportunity. It's just a question of how you approach it. People talked about things like DE&I for a long time and all that. And the firms that were trying, maybe they weren't succeeding all the time, but they were trying, were the firms that people wanted to work at. And it's no different now. It's you can get to the next place by engaging people. I use the example of a law firm client of mine in Midtown. They did a survey among all the attorneys and the partners said, yeah, we get all the support we need. We have good business plans. And the associates came back and they said, we really like it here. We're getting good training and mentoring, but we'd like a little more of a say in policy before it gets put in place. And at that time, it was coming out of the pandemic and they were talking about return to work and stuff like that. The management committee heard it. They didn't only address it, they went so far as to create a spot on the management committee every other year for a 2-year term to voice the concerns of the associate ranks in the firm. That goes a long way.
Yes.
It goes a long way. It does cost you money, right? And you may learn something. If you're an enlightened, second half of your career partner sitting on the management committee, you may learn a thing or two. You may be able to put something in place that it shows that your firm is a destination for young talent because they're heard. I played a round of golf last summer with 2 29-year-olds. One guy was a consultant, big financial services company, and the other guy worked for a huge bank. And I said, what do you guys want more of, advancement or recognition? And they were like, advancement. If you're advancing us, you're already recognized that we're doing a good job. And I said, yeah, you don't want to be patted on the back. And one of them turned to me and said, yeah, I want to be looked in the eye, John. I said, yeah, but you got to look back. Okay. Like you don't get off, cheap where they just tell you things and because it's expected, things are expected of you too. So a firm that puts an associate on the management committee, they get it.
Yeah. And just extending that out, let's say for not a law firm, just a company. I mean, what I'm hearing is just ask them, now you don't have to give them everything they want, but at least just ask and you might get some good ideas because we have to face a reality, which is we need the Gen Zers. We need the millennials. You got to find a way to make it work.
And you got to have them engaged. The lazy thing. I told you earlier a story on first-year associates. Partner in this top 5 firm said to me, we can't get the associates to come to work. And I said, the partners need to come in. But beyond that, what I'm telling associates that are working in their living room, what are you doing? What are you doing? You spent all this money on law school. You graduated from a top school. You're working at a top firm. But you're sitting on the Upper East Side in New York City or in Brooklyn in your Lululemons or your Adidas sweatpants, thumbing your nose at the man because you're working in your living room 3 or 4 days a week. Here's what's going to happen. Your cohort, who's in the office every day, has a benign touch point with a partner, maybe at the elevator, does some work for him, never hears about how it was done. 2 months later, they meet the same partner at the elevator with a second partner who says, listen, your name's Rob. Come to my office at 2:00, Rob. And that partner's on a call and it says, come on, sit down, Rob, listen in on this call and then we'll talk about it. So now your cohort's gotten 2 touch points with 2 different partners in the office. And 2 years from now, or now 18 months from now, when AI comes along to absorb all that work you're doing in your living room, you're going to be going, what happened?
Right. And by the way, this works even in a company that's totally remote.
100%.
To me, it's just a matter of mingling, being a part of the company, taking part of whatever a company might be doing in a remote environment. We had like literally a remote holiday party.
Perfect.
South America, North America, we had everybody on. Very
Perfect.
cool. We're obviously filming this during the holidays. So I'm going to ask you another challenging question, because this is what's on the mind of a lot of business owners, the older ones, the boomers and the Gen Xers. What do millennials and Gen Zers have to offer that us older generations don't necessarily have?
Energy, enthusiasm, new ideas, ways of communicating it that are different. When you encourage them, they come back for more. It's like, if you're dismissive of anybody, they can be like, I don't need to waste my time with you. The whole remote work thing, all that brought out was how people wanted to work. But it's the same. You need to engage people. And then you need to look them in the eye and say, listen, that was a good idea, but let me tell you why it's not going to work. And if they disengage, then it's on them. But if you handle it the right way, say, listen, keep coming at me. You may have 20 ideas. Okay, if we use one that makes us money, I promise to promote you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, let's not forget that these generations are digitally native. They're digital natives, which is really powerful, especially now with AI. I know when it was now 2 years or so, when ChatGPT came out, and I told the leadership team, look, we're going to get on this. We're going to be an AI forward company. I also knew it wasn't going to be me, but Gen Xer that was going to figure a lot of this stuff out. It was going to be I guess mostly millennials, a little bit of Gen Z there in there too. And they're propelling our company forward. It's really powerful.
And it's exciting. And I tell people, I view myself as an empowerer. I'm a generational advocate for sure. But I believe if you support people, and listen, Bill Gates didn't exist at one time, right? And he changed the world. Steve Jobs, people like that. Now you have AI coming along. It's very much like the old Louis Armstrong song. I see babies cry, watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. That's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
Empower them, make them feel good about it, and then take what they know. If they're digital natives, then embrace it. It doesn't have to work for you. People I talk to, they're like, oh, you're comfortable on screen. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just being me. My assistant, he's a digital nomad. He spent 6 months surfing in Mexico, but he does his job flawlessly. He's back in New York now for 6 months. You have to embrace that. And if you do that, and you're between your age and my age, you look like a rock star.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome, John. I believe you've used the term work-life rhythm, right? And I talk a lot about how this shift in work-life balance, this isn't anything new. This has been going on for over 100 years, right? Look how people were working 100 years ago. And again, the pandemic, I think, just accelerated a lot of things. What does that mean now for the different generations in the workplace?
Yeah, I hate the term work-life balance. And I use the phrase work-life rhythm. Work-life rhythm is, how does your job fit into the rest of your life? And that's the biggest change, right? Because the baby boomers and those older than the boomers, they were defined by their career, right? People today, I tell people, you guys have it all figured out. You want to do interesting work with good people at a fair wage, and then you want to go home. And you don't want to be defined by what you do for a living. You want to be defined by who you are as a person, a husband, a wife, a brother, a daughter, a son, whatever it happens to be. That's the difference. And work-life rhythm is about serving the rest of your life. And that's a foreign concept, especially the baby boomers and older Gen Xers who have come up the ranks, putting in their time, and they expect the people behind them now to do the same. But the economy is different. And the people are saying, the 2.5 younger generations saying, if you don't let me do it this way here, I'm going to go over there. And for the first time in maybe a generation, they have other options, because firms, companies are figuring out that the old way of doing things, although very successful and very profitable, is starting to fade. And it's being driven by customers of a business or clients of a law firm. The people in the buying position do business differently. So work-life rhythm really is what it should be about. But then when you have a certain work-life rhythm, you have to commit to your career and your company and your firm.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from this discussion, John, which has been fantastic, and thank you so much. My biggest takeaway is that the key here is to really embrace the differences, right? You can still be true to yourself. Your company can be true to its core values, but embrace the differences. And there's a whole world of opportunities by doing so.
And if you just extend yourself a little, like you don't even have to believe all of it. Like you don't have to be a new age. I believe in everybody. Just extend yourself. Again, stay focused on what you're doing. What you're doing is trying to get the best result in the business that you're running or the firm you work for. And that's your customers and your clients. So you can reverse engineer everything else. You just have to figure that out. If somebody came to you and said, listen, we need a new computer system tomorrow, you would buy it. So all you're doing is figuring out better ways to get the most out of human capital, the best to really create your revenue stream in a new and different way. And if you're an older person like me, I'm the youngest of the boomers, and you just make a little effort, you'd be surprised. A Gen Z or a younger millennial, they may laugh at you a little bit, but boy, oh boy, they'll appreciate that you tried.
Right, right. Jon, thanks so much for sharing all of these awesome insights with the audience today. Really appreciate it.
Listen, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. This well exceeded my expectations, which were high to begin with. Jon, where can people find out more about you and J. Sheppard Associates?
You can get me directly at J. Sheppard, spelled JSEPPARD, at jshepardassociates.com. You can reach out to me directly. You can check us out on LinkedIn or on Instagram and our newly launched YouTube channel. If you search J. Sheppard Associates, you'll find everything about us. And I really appreciate the time, Rob. I think we're moving along parallel tracks in our businesses, but they are interweaving more and more.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Jon, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good one.